Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth. The words of Albert Einstein. Now, what do we know Einstein for? What was Albert Einstein? Well, a plagiarist, but that's the subject for another sermon. Albert Einstein was a scientist. What we submitted to throughout the Biden years, and even before the Biden years, a period of time that could more aptly be described as the Fauci years, was not a blind belief in science. It was not science. It was authority masquerading as science, punctuated by science, carrying the outward appearance of science, but it was truly authority that we were blindly submitting to. Looking back at it, I can scarcely believe some of the depths to which people were willing to follow the authority. It was not science, it was authority. The authority that was vested in Fauci that took on an air of cult-like behavior. I mean, this guy had his own prayer candles, for Christ's sake. I mean, what kind of guy develops the level of fandom and worship that he requires his own prayer candle? I mean, that would just be yeah, okay. Well, we all got our weaknesses. In any case, the blind submission to authority masquerading as science, a little levity was required, guys, right out of the starting gate. What did we hear throughout this entire debacle? Trust the science. Many unattributed quotes are fitting here. Science. Many people tell us to trust the science, but science itself is not to be trusted. Science is a process of ongoing inquiry. Questioning is much more true to the spirit of science than trust. People who say trust the science don't understand how corporate funding controls and influences quote unquote scientific conclusions. But we were told, trust the science, do not question. And the penalties for questioning were high, and they were quite solidly and deliberately exacted. Dr. Raymond Nichols during this said, trust the science hits different when the science is funded, filtered, and forced. And boy, was it ever during the Fauci years. But again, it wasn't science. It was authority cloaked in science. Bertrand Russell once said, odd coming from a socialist, as soon as we abandon our own reason and are content to rely upon authority, there is no end to our troubles. And there certainly wasn't. For a period of years, there was no end to those troubles. And we all got reminded of it this week as old St. Fauci himself sat down before a congressional committee and took his privileges under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution over 100 times. If one wasn't intimately familiar with it, if one didn't live through it, 20 years from now, going back and trying to describe it, it's just going to defy description. The nature of the thoughtless dystopia into which we were all thrust, and the damages 20 years from now, ironically, will still be shaking themselves out. All of the damage that was done during the lockdowns for the sake of science and trusting the science, all of the harms to our children that are just now beginning to. Did you have your red pill moment? At what point did each of you come to the realization that this is all nonsense? What did it take? So many inconsistencies. Mine was early on, when I realized that they were talking about letting convicted murderers, up to and including almost, missed it by one vote, the Green River Killer and the I-5 killer, missed by one vote of the parole board, being released from prison so as not to spread the virus in prison, but yet they were going to put people in incarceration facilities, jails, and prisons for defying the lockdowns. At what point did the inconsistency become overwhelming? Strip clubs, they were open. Some states. Strip clubs were open. In my home state of Washington, marijuana dispensaries were open. Liquor stores were open everywhere. Big business was allowed to open out of some idea of public necessity, but small businesses, why, they couldn't be frequented at all. And tens of thousands of them closed down as a result. Now, we could have strip clubs open. We could have marijuana dispensaries open, but for some strange reason, churches were considered super spreaders. I've told you the story before. That was one of the things that actually brought me home. A conversation that I had with a Christian friend who said, who would have believed it even 5 years ago if he would have told me that a government, any government, would tell the church that they couldn't have service on Easter Sunday and the church would have listened? But the absurdity didn't stop there. If there was any doubt in anyone's mind after the Year of Our Floyd protests on behalf of a dead fentanyl addict who happened to die under the knee of a police officer, protests, riots, all egged on by the establishment, all egged on and okayed. Gathering in churches as a congregation, that's a super spreader event. Hundreds of thousands taking to the streets to protest for a dead scumbag. Oh no, that's fine. No, we as public health advocates, we don't condemn these gatherings as risky for COVID-19 transmission. Now, this should not be confused with a permissive stance on all gatherings, particularly protests against stay-home orders. How do you like that? A 7-year-old would have found flaws with the logic, but full-grown adults, they went right along, and they started dispensing the hate against anyone who questioned, even for a second, our own addled cadaver of a president at the time. Said that it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Leanna Wen and others, public health authorities, high-ranking officials in the CDC, they were advocating for people to be debanked, to have their kids taken away, to be placed under house arrest for refusing the jab. And let's not act like it was just a few, because we all know, every one of us physically knows someone who, whether they posted it publicly or not, held this attitude. The CDC should roll out a new program, get the shot or get shot. The unvaccinated need to be rounded up and lined up in front of open trenches. Their choice is simple. America has had enough of their virus. We need to get back to normal life, with or without them. These are your neighbors. These are people that you work with. For some, it's even family members. And it became a cult in every sense of the word, beyond the Fauci prayer candles. Stuff like this, the merchandising. Fauci gang. People were getting tattoos, proud of their Fauci ouchie. Who could forget this cringeworthy moment for that shill Stephen Colbert? It was insane by any reasonable definition. We've all been borne out on our skepticism. We were right about literally everything. But let's not forget how we were characterized back in the day. This little cartoon right here. All the scientific studies and evidence show that vaccines are extremely safe and effective. I prefer to get my medical advice from pundits and politicians. Yeah, us red hat deplorables and our stupidity. The only problem was, as this memo, which came out this week and was buried by the mainstream press, they knew that the vaccines were neither safe nor effective. And in these memos and other stuff that came out in Fauci's diary, the reason why he took the fifth over 100 times, they knew, and they deliberately held back that information from the public. It hasn't faded. To this day, From time to time, you can see people driving around by themselves, still masked up. You know, this Fauci dystopia is like a gift that keeps on giving. These, by the way, dated back to before. This is a fellow by the name of David Dees. You can look him up and know it's not a joke. Don't take the low-hanging fruit. David Dees was the artist name that did this kind of stuff. He called it years ahead of time, but the pandemic brought it home. I'm still recoiling in shock at people that I had previously had respect for their intellect and the way that they behaved and the tenacity with which they cling to those misguided opinions, still defending every bit of this dystopian culture that was thrust upon us. The worst part about it, man, the worst part about it is that there's no accountability. What are they going to get him for? Contempt of Congress? Great. That carries a max of a year in prison. And with this Congress that can't even get the SAVE Act passed, there's not a chance in hell of him serving a day. Not a chance. Without accountability, well, then there's no incentive to not do it again, because they know now the experiment that they ran was successful enough, at least, to point out just how far they could push just how big a section of the American public to become a de facto Stasi. I still shudder, but I'm glad that it happened. We got to see everyone that we know for exactly who they are when it counts. Thank God for that. There were surprises on both sides, but thank God for that. To be able to know people for exactly who they are when it counts. But unfortunately, without accountability, hell, man, even the founders knew what would happen without accountability. Thomas Paine, a body of men holding themselves accountable to nobody, ought not to be trusted by anybody. And what do we have now if not that? With zero accountability, there's no incentive for them to not do it again. A more contemporary quote from Thomas Sowell, who I think very highly of. It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. There is no price to be paid. And this is going straight down the memory hole. Yeah, we're going to pull Orwell out. The very concept of objective truth is fading out of the world. After all, the chances are that those lies, or at any rate similar lies, will pass into history. It's of pinnacle import that we not let anyone slide with an apology. It's of critical import that we don't forgive and forget. It's of pinnacle import that we don't try to get back to some sort of normal. Because without nailing it home now, this will pass into history. Fauci will be the same celebrity that he was during the COVID crisis, and he'll be that way forever. History is written by the victors. And on that basis, we cannot afford to let them win. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one's for the sake of you docs, happy Antifa maggots out there. Give it your best shot. You've tried before and failed. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with fistful after fistful of truth cock until your eyes either split open and bleed or open and see the light of truth. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. Time once again for the Sunday sermon. How you doing? Good to see everybody on board. You can see there's been a change of surroundings. We're going to get into all that. In the meantime, between time, we're about to jump on into this roll call. Hopefully everybody's feeling it today. Where's the fire at? Everybody up for the drum roll. Come on. Hard charging out of the starting gate, reeling and rocking the way we always do, damn near every Sunday to the strains of Red Desert, gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older, No Wiser. Every week, I get a little bit older. Every week, you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. Not making any promises this week, but we'll see who's here to pass the judgment, man. See who all is on board. Rolling it on back, man. We're going to do the whole roll call. My goodness, man. This is a long conversation you guys are having. David, taking the gold. Good to see you, brother. And, of course, lovely Miss Carrie, taking the silver and bronze, going to our dear old friend Roman. Good to see you guys on board. The divine Miss Emmy, OG Center Sister herself, showing up early. Glad you guys made it out. I decided I'd just run it a little bit later, man, just to, give it an allowance for any tech difficulties we might have. It's hamstrung me for the past couple of weeks, but here we are. Glad you made it out, Brother Dennis. Yes, sir. And, yep, I can see there was already a little doubt of whether or not I was going to make it. Everybody thought maybe they showed up early or it was another tech issue. And I can't blame you, man. It hadn't been that well for the past couple of weeks. See who we got, man. Brother Bill Wade. Glad you made it out. By the way, I did get your voicemail, brother. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We are overdue for a phone call, and one is going to be coming very, very soon. You got my word on that, brother. Hopefully, maybe make it up to Jayville sometime soon. Lots of good stuff going on, man. Lots of good stuff going on. We're going to be getting into all of it as the program goes on. Brother Ryan out there, how you doing, brother? It was great to see you the other night, man. Great to see you. Hope you guys are having a good time, behaving yourselves, misbehaving yourselves. Let's be honest. We all knew where that was going. But it was great to see you, brother. Glad you made it by, man. Glad we got a chance to meet up. That was fantastic. All right, man. Well, we got the usual suspects on board. Give it a drag for a minute or two just to see who else is going to show up. A lot of important stuff to cover. Brother Wayne Sharp, man, all the way back to the high school days. Hope all are well this week. I can't speak for everybody, Wayne, but I'm doing okay. Where's your brother, man? Ain't seen him around in a minute. He's kind of keeping a low profile these days, man. Always good when he shows up and chimes in, man. It's always good. What is this? Wait a minute. At least my models were anti-jab. They knew something was up. Yeah. True story, brother. True story. I know, man. It brought it all home. Watching this weasel in front of this congressional subcommittee this week and watching the way that the press and the celebrity class handled it, still trying to defend this man. I know vaccine injured people who are still swearing that it was not the jab that did these horrible things to them. And it's tough, man. It's tough, especially when it's people that you know to be intelligent, people that you know to be thoughtful, and they are still defending this madness. It's mass formation psychosis doesn't even begin. Okay, maybe it begins, but not completely, man. In any case. Oh, man, check it out. Brother Turtle from Iron Pig. Hey, man, speaking of phone calls, I need to give you a buzz, brother. I am about to be getting my Texas residency squared away, hopefully within the course of this week. So if we can make that happen, well, we got some stuff to talk about, man, for sure. Brother Joel from the Midwest, glad you made it out. Great to see you too, Joel. Glad to see you, man. All the usual suspects making it out. We're going to go ahead and fade this bumper music out. Just jump right on into it because we do have a hell of a lot to cover, man. Hell of a lot to cover. It's a pretty eventful week. And even if there wasn't all the other stuff going on, man, just the Fauci stuff would have been enough to keep me ranting and raving like a madman for an hour straight away. I can't fathom the depth of this lunacy. Go ahead and fade that music out. Again, guys, the name of the band is Red Desert. The track is Older, No Wiser. Those guys have been cool enough to let me use that track for bumper music pretty much since we got this thing started back when it was the COVID cast back around 2020 when we kicked this thing off. They've been cool enough to let me use that royalty free. And so, as I'm always saying, take care of the people that take care of me, take care of the people that are taking care of the program. That means download some of their music, pay for it. If you dig what they're laying down, maybe buy some merch. They're actually a really good, just straight ahead rock and roll band. Weird thing how I even stumbled onto them. They were on the soundtrack for this odd documentary that I just happened to catch, and that track came on. I was like, dude, that is a jam. And it was on my playlist. And early on in the days of the COVID cast, we weren't really doing bumper music. It was just like a short intro, and I just decided I was going to mix it up a little bit. So I started the program. I was wearing a gas mask and just dancing around to that track, and it just accidentally became the bumper music. But I sent it to him and I was like, hey man, here's my thing. This is what I do. I'm kind of bumping y'all's track like right at the beginning. If you have an objection, I'll find something else. And they were like, nah, man, cool, run with it. So that's where we've been for 6 years. Take care of them. They're taking care of me. They're taking care of the program. And, you know, they're good folks, good, solid rock and roll. Ain't nothing wrong with that. While we're speaking of people who are taking care of me and taking care of the program, get some sponsor shout outs. First and foremost, of course, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Mr. Roman. And that's always a pleasure to give him a shout out, dude. We go all the way back to 1988. Can you believe it? I think we told the origin story one time about that. It's for another time. In any case, man, you want to check him out. He is Roman Riva on Amazon. He's got a collection of his watercolor work from over at opiumtales.com. Tastefully done nudes, some outstanding watercolor work. They have the erotic pinups and portraits people, and you couple that with some testosterone driven commentary. You got two Vietnamese guys. It's a win-win. Yeah, all right. Sorry, I'd been saving that. Anyway, but opiumtales.com, and you want to check him out on Substack as well, man, because he's doing some hard-hitting stuff over on Substack, and it's just good to see him prospering. Like I said, dear friend, supported the program, supported me through some of the darkest days of my life, man. So thank you, Roman, for everything. You're going to spend some money with people who are in the community. Roman Freely is the name of the collection of his watercolor works. Roman Riva on Amazon, that's where you find him. Roman Freely, collection of his watercolor works, and he's also doing short fiction over there on Amazon. You're going to want to check that out. Also, where would we be without my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, who are up against it right now up there in Spokane? We'll get into that a little bit later, but my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, Nordic Smoke Barbecue, they are the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest, period. End of statement, full stop, done. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. They're it. They're the only game in town, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. And the Viking Longship, their smoker trailer, is out sailing the asphalt seas right now. They're doing catering gigs, and right now they are hunkered down and trying to weather the wildfires. So all of us give a word of prayer from our Viking brothers up there in the Inland Northwest. Nordic Smoke Barbecue, check them out. And you're also, Dusty's the pitmaster now. Casey has moved on to bigger and better things. He has passed the Washington State Bar. He is a practicing attorney now. I've got him on retainer. If you are a like-minded individual who eventually is going to find themselves in trouble, you live in that part of the world, get him on retainer. He's solid guy all the way around. He is a combat veteran, and he has written a book called Freaks of a Feather that is available from Laytop Press out of Spokane, Washington. It's available on Amazon. It is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. Again, every time I say that, that should be it. That should be, if I'm a reader and I'm a thinking person, I hear a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. That should be all the lead you need, Bubba. I'm saying he will take you on a walk through some dark places. He is an incredibly gifted writer. And again, they are taking care of me, taking care of the program. So let's take care of them, man. Like minds and kindred spirits. At the end of the day, we are all we got. So, yeah, take care of those folks. Let me see. Looks like we got another couple of folks on. Brother Clem showing up. My favorite Frenchman, man. Glad you made it out, Bubba. Glad you made it out. And if my eyes don't deceive me, G-Dub showing up. Serious war prep going on here. Everybody has arms just in case of China. Is that still up in the frontier? You're still up in Alaska right now. Am I reading that right? Fill me in over here in the comments. And let me know, because if there's serious preps going on up there or wherever you are, man, listen, I'm all about people prepping for whatever may come. So, in the Philippines, holy man, how'd you make it over to the Philippines? You know what, man? Hit me up with a message. I want to find out what you're doing over there. G-Dub, by the way, has been on. He's been on some reality TV shows over the years. He got to be closer to my little trucker crush, Ice Road Truckers, or those dangerous trucker shows that he was a part of. I cannot remember the young lady's name, but I had the biggest crush on that young lady, and I was incredibly jealous that G-Dub actually got to spend some time in the cab with that woman. But anyway, man, he's been a friend for a number of years. We butt heads on a few issues, but especially since my return to the faith, we find a lot more in common than we used to have in opposition. So that's always a good thing. And yes, smash the like button, folks. Let's bump Bart up in the algorithm. Algorithm, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. So yeah, the wildfires. Casey and Dusty are okay. All of my Spokane friends who have checked in are okay. We'll get more into it later because there's a lot more to be delved into with regard to some perhaps nefarious actors and some other things. So I want to give that its proper accordance. So let's go ahead and we'll just lay into what was that? It won't hurt your feelings to say she had been single and now dating a 60-year-old who had a bunch of tats and a mohawk. Damn, man, I was this close, man. I should. What do the kids say? Shoot your shot, bro. Yeah, I should have, apparently. Anyway, G-Dub, good to see you on board. So let's just jump into it. Of course, first and foremost, we give our honor to the boss man and the carpenter man. And I've got some scripture passages here. We open every one. Sometimes they're related, sometimes they're not. This one's kind of on the edge of being related to the stuff that we're talking about, and it will apply, but we're going to jump right into it. We're going to jump into it from Psalms and a couple of others. And the scripture for this week is going to be from Psalm 91, and that's a big one. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid of the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. That's right. Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. And this one's in red, so you know it's got to be important. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Y'all feel me with that? Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Brother, you're getting ready to lay down some hands, man. You're getting ready to lay down some shots. You are under pressure. You are under fire. You fall back on Psalm 91, man, and you will come out feeling invigorated. We are under the divine protection of the boss man. We are under divine protection. Don't ever lose sight of that. No matter what it is that's troubling you, man. And it's all relative. Some people, it's like, oh, my credit rating dipped 20 points, And some people, like the people who are on the ground in Nigeria right now, are Christian brothers and sisters who are being massacred by Muhammad's minions over in Nigeria right now. And that'll put it into some perspective for you. We think a lot about the troubles that we have as Christians here in the States. We don't know trouble. Bill Wade is here, my brother in Christ. He gifted me with a copy of a book called Live Not by Lies that talked about Christians and how they suffered under communism. I've been watching probably way too many videos for my own good with regard to what's going on in Nigeria right now. And there are a lot of accusations that have been thrown at me over the years with regard to my racial politics. Those are our brothers and sisters. They are walking in the light of the truth. So don't come at me with your narrow-minded ideas about my supposed hatred for anyone. Don't be coming at me with your narrow-minded ideas of your perception of my attitude on something. You don't know me, brother. You don't know me. And even if you do, clearly you don't know me well enough. I'm very hesitant to use the word persecution with regard to the faith. You guys know me. I'm very adamant about refraining from using the word persecution for those exact reasons. Like, the whole war on Christmas thing and all this, are we being targeted? Yes. Are we being marginalized? Yes. Are we being singled out? Absolutely. If certain factions get their hands back on the switch, could it get to persecution? And very quickly, yes. I'm not naive, people. But when I think persecution, I don't think someone having paint thrown at them when they're preaching the gospel on a public street. It's not persecution, all right? I don't think of people having their 501c3s revoked under Lois Lerner during the Obama years as being persecuted. Targeted, yes, right? That's not persecution. When I think of persecution, I think about people who are strapped to bed frames and have their feet broken with police nightsticks because they refuse to renounce Christ. I think about 21 Coptic Christians on the shore of a sea having their throats slit, and the last word that crosses their lips is the mighty name of Jesus. I think about a Nigerian mother who just watched her entire church congregation massacred, watched children dismembered alive, their limbs hacked off with machetes, and then got to watch her baby be sliced in half. So when you come to me and you want to speak about evil, and when you come to me and you want to speak about persecution, understand that we may be thinking on different scales and on different levels. Yeah, Christians here are scorned, mocked, hated. We're used to that. There was a Nazarene carpenter. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I read it in a book somewhere. Something about if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. I'm old. I forget stuff. Seems like he was a woodworker fella, maybe a stonemason. I don't know. So yeah, we're probably thinking on different levels, which is not to belittle, which is not to say that we don't need to always be conscious of those slings and arrows that are coming at us. And there are going to be a lot more of them. Nobody thought the Fauci years were going to get that far out of hand. Oh, man, you're just being alarmist. Oh, they'll do this, but they won't do that. Dude, it'll never get that far. Bro, no American is going to sign up for... Dude, okay, well, the majority are still going to... And look where we wound up. So when I tell you that American Christians are going to be singled out, if and when, God forbid, those people get their hands back on the switch, when I say to you that we're going to be singled out, when I say to you that actions are going to be taken against us, that it's going to be colored under the name of law or emergency powers or attributing one thing to another, yes, that's coming. Believe that, okay? But right now, for the time being, I'm hesitant to use the word persecution, okay? So just kind of bear with me on that. But I'll tell you something. When you go back through that and you read that passage from Psalm 91, no matter what the hell we're ever going to roll up against, man, no matter what we're going to roll up against, we got that to look forward to, man. And we got that behind us. 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. I fear nothing. Apprehensive about nothing. I can recognize something for what it is. I can be disturbed, upset, perturbed, frustrated, but afraid? Miss me with that, Sparky. Miss me with that. I'm divinely protected while I still draw breath, and you can only kill me once. Mark that. All right. And before we get off that portion of the program, here's a couple of failings and a couple more things I want to drop on you since we're on that vibe. And I want everybody who is walking in the faith and everybody here who is a righteous man. You understand? The people who may not be walking in the light of Christ, but who are righteous men and will stand in the gap. What, you think just because somebody's not Christian that they wouldn't be willing to stand in the gap and know the difference between right and wrong, watching a village of people being butchered, watching a kid be sliced in half? You don't need to be walking in the light of Christ's truth to have a moral compass. I want to be abundantly clear on that. But even the righteous men who are not walking in that can take some solace in those words. That's the beauty of it. And what does modern society choose to present about that? It's that buddy Christ. It's that hippie Jesus. We present the Christ that coddles, the Christ that doesn't look at the thing that's poisoning us. How are we saved? Again, you got righteous men who are not walking in the faith that are presenting an evil. Right there, showing it to you. Right there, showing it to you. What, you're going to disregard that because they're not walking in the faith? I will embrace any righteous man. I will pray for any righteous man. I will stand and fight beside any righteous man. And you can be a Christian, you can be a devout atheist, you can be asatru, Gnostic, name it. Name it. I'll stand with you, man. I'll stand with you. And I'll offer these things, these words of support from my faith to you. Just to say, hey, maybe you're not down, just to say, hey, maybe you're not down with the book. Maybe you're not down with the carpenter. But I love you. I stand with you. And I see the works that you're doing as righteous. And I can back that play. I still gotta admonish. I still gotta say to you, hey, Christ is the way. But I'm not going to sit in judgment of you simply because you don't walk in the light of that truth yet. I'm going to keep praying you come around. In the meantime, we got to stand and we got to fight because evil could care less. And evil never sleeps, brother. Evil never sleeps. From Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance, and he will render unto her a recompense. That's the admonition that I'm talking about. The righteous men who are not in the faith yet, They know enough to flee from Babylon to not be swept up in that iniquity. They got enough of a moral compass that they see a global cabal of satanic pedophiles. Oh, goodness. Tinfoil hat. Real. But they can see that it's time for the Lord's vengeance. They might not read it the same way. They may just see it as a moral comeuppance from some divine higher consciousness, however it is, whatever lens, they've at least got the compass to see. And right now, I'll take it. Right now, I'll take it. I will continue to witness. I will continue to pray for them. I will continue to admonish. What I won't do is say, sorry, bro. Sorry, bro. Christians only. We're doing enough of that in our own ranks right now. It is one thing to disagree, and I do, on doctrine between one denomination or the other. And some stuff does need to be weeded out. There is such a thing as discernment. The Tallaricos of the world, walking around calling themselves ministers of Christ, that has got to be weeded out. And there will come a day where we can have the discussion about whether the papacy has it right or whether Martin Luther and everyone that came after that stepped away from that has it right, or most likely, if we're talking straight apostolic lineage, that my ortho bros have it right. We're all working towards the same goal. And right now, I don't see this as Catholic versus Protestant. I don't see this as any of the denominations being at war with each other. We'll have time to talk doctrine, but right now we got something really big to deal with. And we need all hands on deck so we can fight this thing, so we can beat it back, so we can live to see the day that carpenter fellow I was telling you about descends from the clouds, fire in his eyes. That day that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Understand that when I admonish, I'm admonishing out of love, bro. When I pray for you, I'm praying out of love, not judgment. But in the meantime, stack up on me, bro. We're hitting that door. In the meantime, side by side, 3 wide, I'll be Frosty the Point Man. We're hitting that door. I'll be the bullet sponge. Because there's some real evil going on in the world right now. Might have been a disjointed rant. I don't care. That's where it's taking me right now. So that's what we're running with. And Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal. Let not one of them escape. And they seized them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slaughtered them there. Now, the guy that posted this, he said this post isn't about the Old Testament, but it is. It is. What is it? Pastor Mark Driscoll's always saying, new days, old demons. Y'all miss me with that hippie Jesus stuff. Miss me with it completely. and recognize that the best of God's prophets have all been damage cases. The best of God's prophets have always been rough men ready to do filthy, hard, difficult, and often violent things. Y'all read up on Elijah? You should. Feisty little character, that fella. Go back and read 1st and 2nd Kings. Go back and read Joshua. Talk to me about how we're all supposed to roll over and play dead. But speaking, dovetailing right off of that, Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal, let none of them escape. Seize them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, slaughtered them there. He's talking about that cabal. He's talking about that evil. He's talking about what's this? He's talking about those forces of darkness in the high places. How that still manifests today. And for those that aren't in the faith, and I love bringing this up whenever I get a chance. You guys familiar with Pascal's wager? Some of you might not be. That thought that it's better to gamble on God and be wrong than to gamble on no God. A lot of people planning on pulling the Pascal's wager with their dying breath and in the meantime living sinfully. That's not going to work out for you. But Pascal's wager in the 21st century, God may or may not be real, but the other side is so passionate, so committed to worshiping Satan, evil, homosexuality, and corrupting children that even if God wasn't real, believing in him to fend these demons off is preferable. I don't think anybody can argue with that. So for some of you who may be right on the edge of walking in faith or rolling it around in your head, or maybe you're just right in that Pascal's wager zone, how about that update? Because that's a statement of principle that I feel like we can all get behind. One of the things, man, like jumping back into the faith, one of the things was it only made sense through a biblical lens. The ubiquity of this evil, ubiquity, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The ubiquity of this evil was so overwhelming and so seemingly disjointed. How do you have people who are committed to sodomy, particularly with children, allying themselves with people who, as a matter of doctrine, kill those people? Makes no logical sense. Viewed through a biblical lens, it totally makes sense, because they are both extreme manifestations of evil. We are dealing with, in the case of Islam, a religion whose chief prophet took a wife when she was 6 years old, consummated the marriage when she was 9. Viewed through a biblical lens, it completely stands to reason that people who think it is acceptable to slice the genitals off a child who is not yet old enough to smoke would be allied with that, even though said religion calls for the beheading of those people in question. Only through a biblical lens does any of that make sense. And every time we come back to evil, that keeps being brought back home to me. Your mileage may vary. But there are too many people that are still in that hippie Jesus mode. A Christ that coddles. They won't even look at the thing that's poisoning us. How are we saved? I'm willing to look at the thing that is poisoning us, and I'm willing to say it is poisoning us. I'm willing to step up and tell my brothers, in the faith or not, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Don't be caught up in that firestorm. For the love of all that is holy, turn from it, call it out, and be ready to go to the wall fighting it. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight you. Too bad, because I want to fight you. Body, mind, soul, all of it. And the person you have to be the hardest on is you. The person I have to be the hardest on is myself. If you think I am coming at any of this from some exalted position of morality, as if I am somehow above, then clearly I'm communicating poorly. No, I'm not communicating poorly, because I don't know how else I could possibly be more clear. I am as wretched as they come. Oh, come on, Bart. Don't be so hard on yourself. You've done some really great things for people, man. You know, now you come back around to the faith, man. You turned a lot of people on to the faith, and you're preaching the word. And, dude, you know, you got to, yeah, it's not enough. I will never be enough. So when I admonish, I am not coming from a place of judgment. I'm coming from a place of love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That means holding them to the same standard. And I have to be willing to hold myself to a higher standard. And I fail. I fail so very frequently. I get up, I dust off. I fail so very frequently. But I get up, I dust off, I put my face in some scripture and my ass under some iron, and I pray, and I try to do better. Not to dislocate my shoulder, patting myself on the back. This isn't for me. This isn't about me. This is about the kingdom. This is about serving a larger purpose. And if anything that I ever say or do moves you in that direction, thank God for using me as a vessel to deliver it. Brad Stein, you guys follow him? I can't remember. I should have. Well, how could I have? I didn't know I was going to go this way in this rant. But he talks about it. There's a passage in the Gospels where the carpenter's talking, and some guy's puffing his own pecker about what a great job he's doing. My righteousness, my, all of this. And he gets admonished. Filthy rags. Your righteousness is as filthy rags. Somebody wants to pull that scripture verse for me real quick. I'd certainly appreciate it. Your righteousness is as filthy rags. Now, that's the translation. The transliteration, is menstrual rags. Yeah, they didn't have single-use disposable back then. They used rags for their menstrual blood. And in that passage, that is how the brother gets admonished, because he's very proud of himself and all the great works he's done for the kingdom. Your righteousness is as filthy rags. In other words, these great acts that you think you're doing. Oh, what a good boy for the kingdom. Great job. Look at me. All puffed up in my own ego, all puffed up in my own pride. These great things are like bloody menstrual rags. Is that too graphic? Is that too graphic for you guys? Am I hurting somebody's delicate sensibilities here? Don't take from that, oh, well, it'll never be good enough, so quit. That's the beauty of this. You'll never be good enough. But by the grace of God, that carpenter died on that cross so that you would not have to suffer the wages of that wretchedness. What an incredible gift. What an incredible gift. Didn't even plan on this heading that direction. Yep, Saul to Paul. Thank you. Road to Damascus. You got it. You got it. I love that you guys are tracking, man. I love that you guys are tracking. Good, good, good. You can find parallels between Romans and the art of war. Joel, you absolutely can. You can. You could find all manner of commonalities between Proverbs and the Havamal, between the 9 noble virtues and Proverbs, between the 9 noble virtues and passages from Ecclesiastes. All kinds of commonalities there. Absolutely. In the meantime, we got one opponent. We got one opponent with many manifestations. What we are fighting is legit evil. What we are fighting is legit darkness. Oh, Bart, that's pretty vague. I don't know, man. Need to nail it down a little tighter than that, bro. This whole good and evil thing. I'm really not, because isn't that, bro, isn't that kind of like subjective? I don't know, man. Like when I read from the New International Version, and when my non-binary lesbian bishop is telling me about Jesus, I just don't really, I don't know, man. I just vibe better with that, bro. I just vibe better with that. This like good evil stuff, bro, it's just harsh. Literally everyone that I see with the Talarico for Texas sticker. That's what we're dealing with. And for the sake of you, Sparky, God bless you. I'm going to pray for you. You're on a lower level of evil because all you're doing is enabling it. But guess what? You had better flee your ass up out of the midst of Babylon, because what I was reading there from Jeremiah, you have been admonished, son. Don't say that we didn't warn you. There will be a recompense. Best to believe that. Devil's having a good run right now. A lot of Christians are getting blackpilled behind that. That's why Psalms resonates so much with a lot of the young men, because they're looking at David and he's anguished. He's God's best and brightest, but he's anguished from stuff that was put upon him, from stuff that he brought upon himself. And he's seeing these enemies mocking the Lord. He's seeing these enemies blaspheming God. And he's crying out, Lord God, how long? How long? How long will you suffer these people? And the answer to that, of course, is when he decides. And when he decides, there's not going to be any doubt in anyone's mind when that tipping point hits. I promise you, there's not going to be any doubt in anyone's mind. In the meantime, we're here to stand in the gap. That's where the West, that's where the civilization that our forebears created, that our ancestors bequeathed to us, all of that is rooted in biblical principles. Chivalry, rooted in biblical principles. The sovereignty of the individual, rooted in biblical principles. The sanctity of human life, rooted in biblical principles. We are the only civilization in the history of the world to have delivered that on such a scale. We're it. Not all civilizations are created equal. Not all cultures are created equal. And it is not relative. As we went over last week, there is a chasm of difference just in the approach to the alphabet people. We pray for them. We tell them, no, we're not obligated to bake your wedding cake. We tell them, turn from your sin. In some places, people say, as part of the legislative process, we don't believe that your marriage should be dignified by the state. But again, getting back to that word, persecution. Over there, executed. Other cultures, executed. Unceremoniously, on the spot, executed. I, as a Christian, won't claim persecution. This is another reason why I'm so loath to use that word. Women here claim persecution. Persecution. Really? The Handmaid's Tale cosplay? Because you can only You can only kill your baby in 47 states now. So clearly it's a tyrannical theocracy. That's persecution. And yet we'll uphold a culture where they dress you up in a beekeeper outfit, and if you step out or even suspected of stepping out on your old man, they can beat you to death or stone you to death in public on the spot. You guys ever heard of a clitoridectomy? Am I pronouncing that right? Perhaps it's clitorectomy. I think both are medically acceptable as terms. They're certainly not morally acceptable as practices. So don't tell me that all cultures are created equal. And don't tell me that that isn't evil. Getting back to that same thing, there's nothing vague about that. You might not be a Christian. But if I say, does it sound like a good idea to take a toddler and slice out her clit? You could probably go, But there are people in academia that will literally stand on business for that being morally not our place to judge, because all cultures are created equal. I disagree. Absolutely and without equivocation, I disagree. This has gone in a totally different direction than I thought it was going, but that's where we are. In any case, I covered the scriptural part of it. No more hippie Jesus. Covered Pascal's new wager. And I'll stand on business with that too. Pascal's wager in the 21st century. God may or may not be real, but the other side is so passionate, so committed to worshiping Satan, evil, homosexuality, and corrupting children that even if God wasn't real, and he should have capitalized God just grammatically, even if he's not in the faith, that even if God wasn't real, believing in him to fend these demons off is preferable. Better believe that. And I'll stand on this. I'll end with this. Unapologetic Christian nationalism is the only thing that can save Western civilization. While Christians may not be persecuted in the conventional sense, our civilization is under attack. And that's all there is to that. This is not open for debate. This is not open for discussion. You guys will pardon me just one second. This little thing right here, take a good look at it, because these are about to vanish, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Test me again. (7-hydroxymetragenine). We are being told it is 15 times as strong as morphine. I just took 300 milligrams. Do the math on that. What's 15 times 300? Somebody do the math on that. Leave it over in the comments. That's how much stronger than morphine I just ingested. So if I'm not salivating and curled up in a fetal position by the end of the program, suffices to say they're lying. Mark the time right now, 1913 hours. So we're at 13 minutes past the hour, 300 milligrams of 7-hydroxymetragenine, and you tell me if it's 15 times as strong as morphine. You tell me. We're going to repeat this experiment until it either runs out or I've made my point. And I don't think I'm ever going to make my point, at least not with the FDA. So, guys, let's cover the Fauci thing real quick. Easy enough. We watched him. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I really don't. I'm only going to spend time on this as regards what it brought back up to the forefront. There's nothing new to be discussed here. Every bit of this has already been gone over. As it plays into the original topic, which is the steady forward march of encroachment and authoritarianism and control and surveillance and every other damn thing that's going on, We got to revisit that this week and see that, at least in the immediate, there is no accountability. So I'm going to urge each and every one of you to remember exactly who is who. They showed themselves during the crisis. The ones that cleave to the side of mask up, the ones that cleave to the side of hidden tip lines to snitch on your neighbors because they didn't stay socially distanced. All the ones that showed themselves to be Stasi Karens. Do I have that hashtag? I'm going to look over here real quick. I might have it. Yes, all the ones that showed themselves to be Stasi Karen. Remember who the hell they are. We got to revisit it again because a lot of time has gone by and some of you may have forgotten who's who and what's what and who did what to who and who was willing to snitch out who with the possible reward of what. A lot of time's gone by. I'm glad that it happened, and I'm glad that we got to revisit it this week, particularly since there's no accountability, because that should reinforce for you the idea that no one is coming to save you. These people are who they are. The ones who are willing to rat out their neighbors to the cops for having 4 people at the house are still those people. So when, God forbid, the left get their hands back on the switch, these are the ones who are going to be in control of your family's safety, and you need to be thinking accordingly. Bart, it is really not that big of a deal, bro. You're right. Much bigger. Much bigger. Because just like we learned our lessons from this time around, they learned theirs. They know exactly how far to push. They know exactly how to lay out the red carpet for snitch culture. And they know which is the most efficient mechanism to exercise and implement control over a populace. They will be dealing with the backlash that their credibility has been shot down. That is a factor worth taking into consideration. They're going to have to think about that. Going to have to be a much bigger scale than some little respiratory infection. People are ready to go to the wall for that. Not so much next time around, but they learned. These people haven't changed. Not one damned thing about them has changed. I am talking from the medical establishment to the leftists that continue to defend them. Not a damn thing has changed about these people. Yeah, bro, but the ones that I know, man, I mean, they're like friends. Yeah. Let me guess. Next, you're going to tell me, oh, they're your family? They're your family members? Really? And you trust that? When the Berlin Wall came down and the official records of the Stasi were released for the very first time, depending on which study you looked at and how you defined working with the agency, anywhere from 1 out of 7 to 1 out of 3 East German citizens had served as functionaries for the Stasi in one capacity or the other. Yes, Bart, but that's very, very different. Is it? Because the Spokane Police Department had to release a public service announcement to tell people to stop calling 911 over social distancing. Think about that. So many people were calling 911 because their neighbors weren't 6 feet apart that SPD had to go public on local news affiliates and go, we're all concerned because we are all in this together after all, and we trust the science. But please stop calling 911. Not stop calling the cops, just stop calling 911. It's still worth calling the police over, just not an emergency. We got to revisit every bit of that this week. Fauci did more in his silence than anything he could have said. Because in every previous hearing, he was able to retort. As we know now, they were all lies. So his responses were essentially a waste of time. So this week's hearing is arguably the most important one that he's ever done as far as appearances before Congress. Because by taking the fifth, the one thing he did not get the chance to do was lie. Rand Paul speaks a truth about this horrible thing that he did. He didn't get to say, no, I didn't. Josh Hawley steps to him about a study that he falsified or a way that he profited personally off of lying to the American public. He didn't get the chance to say, tut, tut, good sir. Basically, every member of that committee, and to a lesser extent, the American public as a whole, got to sit and watch every allegation against him be read without response. Not because he chose to exercise his rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. That was just the device that he used to run interference. He had nothing to say. Nothing. He wasn't avoiding a perjury trap. He's already gotten a blanket pardon for everything. But we're just going to have to saddle up for the fact that there will be no accountability for this man. So if all that we get out of it is to see him squirm in his seat as the truth is read out loud to the American people without his lying mouth spewing bile in response, then that's just going to have to be good enough. Remember who stood with him, remember who they are, and remember what they represent. Break no bread with them, make no peace with them. I am admonished by Christ to forgive them. And I do. But I am not obligated to them in any way. Least of all with my proximity. And that's that. Oh, good thing that's all that happened this week, right? Yeah. We're not quite out of the woods yet. We're not quite out of the woods yet with that. Bill Maher actually wound up stepping up on a couple levels this week that I was very impressed with. He was kind of on the fence during the actual depth of it. He was kind of on the fence, but he was not happy about the way that hearing went. He's disgusted. Old Bill, he might not be a friend of ours. Bill Maher might not be a friend of ours, but he's definitely getting that red pill. Maybe too little, too late. But I'm gonna offer him some of that good Christian forgiveness and be like, all right, Bill, let's see what you got. He actually stepped up and said his vote is in play. He said that to J.D. Vance live on television, said that if the Dems keep doing what they're doing, his vote is in play. And we're about to jump off into why. Louisiana Attorney General says state will investigate Fauci after Senate hearing. Florida is also going to be investigating Fauci. There are a ton of state entities that are going after the man. He'll never get what he deserves. What he deserves is a rope. Absolutely, without equivocation. What he deserves is a rope. He's never going to get that. But while he rode that wave, if he dies in obscurity with people hating him, I can live with that. I can live with that. I don't have any choice but to live with that and try our best to clean up the mess that him and his defenders created, and to never, ever, ever give them proximity to me again. Maybe you're like me, maybe not. But I was disgusted with myself when these people started showing themselves for who they were. People that were very, very close to me. I was disgusted with myself because I thought of myself as being fairly discerning about people's proximity to me, how close I would let certain people to me based on how they presented. And I was wrong. I was categorically wrong. And that is not a mistake that I will ever let happen again. So again, there are blessings coming out of this. Blessings coming out of it. Didn't the Russians want him at one point? Yeah, they did. They did. But again, Clem, they did want him at one point, and and if that's the case, he'll never set foot on Russian soil again, because they, unlike us, actually will be willing to do something about it. They'll snatch him up and hang him, and they don't give a damn. But with everywhere else, it'll be just like George Bush and Dick Cheney. Those people are war criminals by any reasonable definition. They're wanted by the International Criminal Court. Like, any number of nations have declared them war criminals, and nothing's ever done. Nothing's ever done. They still travel the world on that globalist junket. Nothing ever happens. Nothing. So we'll see. We'll see. So the next thing that I wanted to jump into, as it turns out, I may owe Joe Biden an apology. I'll wait for y'all to pick up your jaws after that. Yeah, I may owe Joseph Biden a legitimate apology for his border policy, because this is, no, that's not, no. We're going to get into, let me pick it up here. Okay. This is our southern border. During the Biden years, this is one of the migrant caravans that we were shown, and President Trump referred to it as an invasion, and of course the press excoriated him for that. That's not an invasion. It's wrong to call them invaders. I mean, especially when they're like, swimming across rivers and jumping fences to invade your country. We can't call them invaders. We can't do that. It's wrong. Yeah, these three pictures right here that I'm showing you, this is all the United States border during the Biden years and how we tried to bring things under control. And that was, by any measure, an invasion. It wasn't a compressed invasion in terms of time frame. We estimate probably 9 to 10 million minimum came across over a period of 4 years. And that's what that looks like. This is what it looks like when 60,000 of them come across in a single day. And they literally are swimming bodies of water, not to go over your border fence, but to go around it. This is what happened in Spain this week. 60,000 Moroccans, almost without exception, Muslim fighting age men. Now, keep in mind the territory that they invaded, and this is the fallback plan for everyone who is apologizing for this. The Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, under siege from the Muslims since forever ago. And when Christian forces pushed them out, and that was the initial pushback, and eventually wound up with the Crusades and everything driving them all the way back to the Holy Land. There's one piece of territory, right, that is right there on the tip of Morocco, and it is Spanish territory. There is a Spanish town there. They swarmed that particular town because the Spanish prime minister had basically said, we're giving amnesty to 500,000 illegals, and that if you cross into Spanish territory by water, you won't be deported. Now, he knew exactly how that was going to play out. They weren't going to cross that small little isthmus. They weren't going to do that. They were going to swim around the fences and land on that territory that's already contiguous to the territory that they occupy. It doesn't change any of the relevant facts of the matter. This is Spanish territory. And 60 to 80,000 crossed in a day and immediately began wreaking havoc. People were killed, stores were looted, people were beaten in the streets. Last I heard, the body count was somewhere around 27. Women were raped. I shouldn't need to say that, because anytime Muslims show up in a European country, women are getting raped. I don't even know why I felt the need to punctuate that. Let's just go lowball. 60,000 in a day. Okay? 60,000 in a day. Now, same basic principle. They are saying it was ours and we're taking it back. It was ours and we're taking it back. Just like the sliding scale of secession, whether it's good or bad, depends on who's doing the seceding and who's in control and does or does not want them to secede. There's a sliding scale when it comes to taking back territory. This used to belong to us. We're taking it back. And whether that's good or bad is entirely subjective, and it's based on your point of view and who's in control. Okay. Now, the first three that I showed you, this one again, that's from the Biden years. That's our southern border with Mexico. This here, again, our southern border with Mexico. This here, again, our southern border with Mexico. And the Mexicans have a word for it. They call it the Reconquista, the reconquering. Okay. How this applies, modern day civilization versus, ancient civilization. There are two groups in particular, La Raza and La Mecha. Now, again, people like to throw the word racist around, and it's real easy to call someone racist when they're a pale face like myself, and also, white identity politics like myself. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Never run away from that. La Raza and La Mecha. Viva Mecha, right? Here we go. And this right here, La Raza and La Mecha. And they insist, it is their stated policy position, that the entire southwestern United States and the greater southern United States as a whole belongs to them. And they are going to steadily wage a war of Reconquista to reconquer the American Southwest. Now, let's just forget for a minute about, say, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Let's just forget for a minute about 1836. Let's just forget about for a minute that Santa Anna decided that he hadn't had his ass kicked enough by the Texans yet, so he tried to invade again, only by now Texas is now part of the United States. reserving the right to leave. But Texas by then was part of the United States and whipped Santa Anna's ass all the way back to Mexico City and could have just annexed the entire territory. But again, damned white Europeans and their empathy. One day we're going to learn that when we kick someone's ass in a fair fight, we don't help them up, dust them off, and go, good game, Jose. Good game, Muhammad. See you on the next one. One day we will figure that out. But the 1800s were not that day. We pushed them all the way back to Mexico City, and they said, whoa, 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 please, 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 stop kicking our asses. If you give us, this is the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, fact check me on this. If you give us $50 million, an astronomical sum at the time, if you give us $50 million, 50 million, and stop beating our ass, we'll settle the border right where it was, and we will give you this territory here, which is modern day Southern California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Stop beating our ass and killing us. Give us 50 million, and we'll just, bygones be bygones. You've got this. And now, over 100 years later, they're coming back around with this nonsense. That belongs to us. Give it back. Let me give you my analogy here, right? Let's say that I'm beating the hell out of you for whatever reason. Let's say I'm just having a really not such a good day, and I'm beating your ass. Let's say that you're a Mexican, and I'm beating your ass, and you go, whoa, 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 dude, hold up. You realize you're getting your ass kicked. You go, dude, please. If you stop beating me up, I'll make you a deal. And you point at a car, and I look over at this car, and it's a rusting hulk of a car. But I know cars, and what I'm looking at is a Hemi Cuda from the 60s. Now, it's rusty, and it's beat to hell, and it needs paint and probably some motor work and everything. But I'm beating your ass, and you go, dude, please stop beating my ass. I'll give you that car. I'll give you that car for $2,000. Now, I know that once I get through doing some work on this thing's going to be worth an astronomical sum. And even as it sits, it's a fine piece of Detroit iron. And I'm getting it for $2,000. I want to be like, all right, cool, dude. Yeah, sure. $2,000. I take the keys and I go. Now, fast forward a year, and I've done all the work to it, and I've got it spit and polished and looking good, and the motor's humming. I've dropped a bump stick in there that almost sounds like it's going to stall out. It's just until I tromp that gas. But I've got a Holly double pumper with those big vacuum secondaries, and the minute I tromp that gas pedal, and it'll pass anything on the road but a gas station. Badass ride, right? But no, because I pull this car up to a stoplight, and Jose, whose ass I was beating, walks up and goes, yo, vato, that's my car, S.A. I want it back. That is the Southwestern United States. So, now that we're done with the history lesson, let's proceed, shall we? Reconquistas, I would love to give him back SoCal. I would absolutely love to give him back SoCal, and we should have taken Baja California as well. I completely agree. All of these things. But we all get the point now, right? We're all up to date on the point. We paid for it in blood and in cash. It's ours. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. But they are of the opinion of Reconquista. That is their thing. Now, what upsets me about the fact that they've chosen that term is that there was a Reconquista. Many, many years ago, there was a Reconquista. We're going to get to that in a minute. But anyway, again, I'm racist, but you've got La Raza right there in your name. La Raza, which means, what? Somebody help me out. My Spanish is a little weak. Trouble recalling it. La Raza, which is the race. The race. the race, not one of many, not one of several, not a conglomeration of, or any of that. Forgetting the fact that all of you are carrying European blood, because we're just anyway. Yeah, La Raza. Okay, so that's where we're at on that. Viva La Raza, Viva Mecha, and Reconquista. Yeah. This is their motto, and Pat Buchanan made this observation. And I think he's right across the board, but I'm only here for the translation. The Mecha slogan is Por la raza todo, fuera de la raza nada, which translates for the race, everything, for people outside the race, nothing. The Mecha slogan seems a conscious echo of the fascist slogan of Mussolini. Everything for the state, nothing outside the state, nothing above the state. Yeah. So, but we're not here to get into that. What we're here to get into is Reconquista. They stole that name, and I'm not happy about that, because the actual Reconquista was the Spaniards taking back the Iberian Peninsula from the Muslims. Now, this started in the early 700s, by the way. Now, we're going to history class here. This started in the early 700s and finished up right around 1492. See if that sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah. So, 1492, the Reconquista, was when that was winding down, and we took it all back from the Muslims. We are revisiting a Reconquista now, right? Because if they are going to push into that Spanish territory, I am going to advocate a Reconquista of the Spaniards taking back their territory. Only they're not dressed like that anymore. They're dressed a little more like this. They need to go in and exercise authority and dominance. They need to push these Muslims back and not give them a foothold, because while it may be just the tip of that little bitty piece of land that is Spanish territory, you know what happens. They're going to welcome them in. This is something that has to be addressed. It's one thing when you've got a dozen here, 2 dozen there. When you have 60,000 come across in one place. I am currently in San Marcos, Texas. The population of this entire town is 67,000. You had that many flood over in a day, all military age males. And predictably, white Spanish women on the beaches. Come on, jumping and cheering and waving them in. There is no end to the suicidal empathy with this crowd. There just isn't. They will welcome these people in. The inevitable result, mass rapes. And then they will turn and blame white European Christian men for not protecting them. We need to preemptively protect them. What happened just a couple of days ago should be utterly terrifying to anyone paying attention. To see that number mobilize that quickly and do that much damage before the Spanish military could even be called in to quell the situation should be terrifying. Spain just gave amnesty to 500,000 and said that any of them that get onto Spanish territory by water also get amnesty. Meaning that all 60,000 just from swimming around a fence and touching foot on what is Spanish soil get granted citizenship, European citizenship, meaning that they can go from Spain all over Europe. If we don't put the foot down now, they're going to saw it off and feed it to us. Bottom line, there's no more talk. Now, again, I'm not going to get upset about any of it. I'm not going to be afraid. God's got this one way or the other. But historically, it's a very, very bad moment that we're in right now. Very bad. And I want to be abundantly clear. They can do this again anytime they want. 60,000 military age males, 18 to 35 is how they generally define that. But they're refugees. Do refugees always leave their wives and children behind? Or is that just a Muslim thing? All of the excuses went out the window this week. All the fallbacks went out the window this week. 60,000 swarmed across the border, immediately laid havoc to the place. And the Spanish military couldn't even respond. People were making noises at the State Department that we needed to do something. I'm inclined to agree. Because just one little historical nod for you, and then we're going to move on to the last little bit that I wanted to talk about. We're at war, allegedly, with Iran. Why? I know, because Bibi said so, and, Orange Guy's his bitch. But the alleged reason that we're at war, oh my goodness, did he just turn, did you Trump cultists out there get your feelings hurt? Did you forget who the hell I was for a minute? I will give the man credit for a lot of good things that he's done. Shutting down that border, outstanding. Outstanding job with the border. Executing deportations, he was doing great until he bitched up. We elected you for a few things, Sparky, and you were doing good there for a minute, but you decided to leave your balls, your spine, and your soul at the Wailing Wall. And we're paying the price for it. We had one opportunity to crush the political left. Absolutely and without equivocation, once and for all. You squandered that for us because it was more important to you to protect the chosen and Lindsey Graham and his little bitch buddies in the Ukraine. Congratulations, Donald. Congratulations. You had the hopes of millions and you squandered it. Where the hell was I going with that? There was something. What was my point? Somebody bring me back on. Bring me back on. I can backtrack it. Yeah. We've got to get this under control. Why are we at war? Why are we at war with Iran, allegedly? Because we don't want the Muslim world to have an atomic weapon. That is a noble goal. If that were legit the reason, I could totally get behind that. All about it. Because you don't want the Muslim world to have an atomic weapon. Here's what we're missing. By not protecting Europe from this invasion, they are going to overwhelm the democracy to where they can vote themselves into power by sheer numbers. They're winning the war without striking a single blow. They come into Europe, we feed them, we house them. The white European Christians that work feed and house them. So they got plenty of time to breed, and they do. The numbers are going topsy-turvy now. They're going to be a majority in a couple of European countries before the decade's out. If one of those countries happens to be England or France, they're going to vote themselves into a nuclear weapon. Do you understand that? We're at war with Iran because we don't want them to build one, and yet we're doing nothing about an invasion that is going to enable them to vote themselves into one. It's insanity. Get it right. Get it right. And Turtle, you're spot on. We feed and house them just like the body does cancer. Absolutely. Absolutely. They are parasites. Bart, that's racist and Islamophobic. Okay. Because you know what's worse than being racist or Islamophobic? Being dead. Seeing your women raped. So if I'm a bad man for wanting my civilization to not only survive but prosper, and I don't want to see the women in my life who I love unceremoniously raped, if that makes me a bad person, then I'm just going to have to own that. And that's as far as I'm going with this. That's as far as I'm going with this. Because it's just lunacy. It's just lunacy. And you have to laugh. You have to. I will take your slings and arrows. I'm a bad man. I think bad thoughts. I'm horribly violent. I'm racist. You want me dead? I'm going to make you work a little bit harder. Which leads me to my final thing, which is an odd, it's an odd segue. It's going to seem really odd coming off that last comment. I never thought I'd be advocating for Reconquista, but that was Reconquista in a very different sense. I want to see the Spanish get their balls back. I want to see the Spanish engage in another Reconquista and flush these people off the Iberian Peninsula once and for all. Once and for all. And have the good sense. The next time we conquer the world, don't give it back to them. All right. Oh, by the way, I took it at 7:13. It is now 7:51, so we're coming up on 40 minutes. Does it seem like I'm on 15 times 300 milligrams of morphine? Does it seem like that to you? Nah, I didn't think so. All right, because that was one bullet point that I wanted to cover, but we'll deal with it another day. So, yes, Spaniards need to get their balls back. There was a story that came down this week, two stories that seem unconnected. Let me punch this up real quick. Punch this up really, really quick. Give me just a second, guys. All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, at an In-N-Out in Idaho, and it wasn't in my part of Idaho. It wasn't in North Idaho, or it certainly wouldn't have gotten that far. Twin Falls, Idaho, which is southern Idaho. Authorities have identified the shooter as 24-year-old Chad Williams. Intervention by armed citizens. A private citizen drew a handgun and fired back, distracting Williams and forcing him to seek cover. And Twin Falls Police Chief Matthew Hicks, I was just in Twin Falls about a couple of years ago now, working a crane job over there. So yeah, credited their heroic actions because they intervened. They intervened and they were able to drive the guy back into cover. And when he realized he wasn't going to be able to kill any more people, well, he took the lead lozenge and put one through the roof of his own mouth. And, the world's a better place without him. Let me see. Punch it back over to my screen, my production screen here. So here's how that came out. This is the guy that intervened. All right. Well, this is the shot of him actually intervening. And you look at that and you're like, my God, does that weapon have a can on it? Oh yeah, that weapon has a can on it. Why? Because this isn't your average bystander who jumps in. This guy has literally been waiting for this moment his whole life and literally been training for this moment his whole life. That is actually an FN57 with a suppressor on it. And that shot that I'm showing you there, that's a shot from one of his internet videos. Why? Because he is an internet influencer doing tactical training. This is what he does. Wrong day and wrong place for a mass shooting event, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, bang bang, and he decided to intervene, and he was able to force the guy back. So all you people that say good guy with a gun never shows up, I actually saw a post on X that was just like, yeah, a good guy with a gun, but he didn't have any effect. The guy killed himself anyway. Whatever. If that guy hadn't been there, the dude would have shot plenty more people before he even ran out of magazine capacity on that AR. So yes, his intervention did help. Okay. Now here's the thing. Why was that guy in the right place at the right time? Why? Because he spent the last several years training himself to do this stuff. You know, like some other people we can name, some other people that you might know, some who fell off the wagon and are jumping back on and crawling furiously to resume an old skill set. Why? Because like this happens. But here's where the somewhat unconnected story comes into play. We train not only in armed combat, but in unarmed combat. We are martial artists. And this is how they're going to get us. Germany's spies are watching 22 far-right fight clubs, and they train young men for violence. Now, you think to yourself, this is a German story that only affects the Europeans. Well, it does affect the Europeans. Why? Because these young men see their culture under attack, and they want to learn how to fight. So how do the German authorities shut that down? You can't say, well, we're going to shut down a martial arts school. You can't say we're going to shut down a fitness gym. But Germany has very strict laws about right-wing extremists. I wonder why the Germans would be averse to having right-wing extremists. I'm looking for the answer, and it's over there somewhere. Maybe higher. Yeah. So they've got laws dealing with right-wing extremism in Germany. And so to bring these guys to heel to where white Europeans won't actually be able to defend themselves, you call them right-wing extremists, and then you can go in and shut down their fight clubs, which are actually just martial arts gyms. Now, ordinarily, that would be just one of these, well, just another damn thing. But story came out this week dovetailing off of that, and you know that the press is a coordinated media machine. You know that the propaganda department for globalism works overtime. You know that all of this is connected. A story hit right here in the United States. I don't have it pulled up over here, but one of you guys can fact check it for me. Look up Tennessee Nazi Fight Club. Somebody just Tennessee Nazi Fight Club. Look for it. Do the homework. You can find it. And they're already sowing the seeds of this story. Anyone who is a right-wing extremist and their clubs are like, well, oh no, we don't want to be dude, we'd much rather be dead than racist. Oh man, we don't want that, because it's still got teeth over here. This is something that you can expect going into, once they get both houses in the midterms and everything starts the downhill slide. And definitely if they get the Oval back in 28, this is going to be the crackdown. And this brings everything full circle back to where I began. Okay. This brings everything back full circle. You have got to be ready, because when they get their hands back on the power, persecution, we're headed there really fast. We are headed to persecution, most Ricky Tick. We are headed to religious persecution, particularly of white Christians. They're already sowing the seeds. So they do the scare tactic, because, when bad guys do things, when anarcho-tyranny is your way of enforcing your thing, and then this guy pops up out of nowhere, and your mass shooting incident with some crazy trans person shooting up a Christian school, oh no, but that never happens. Okay, some crazy hate monger shooting up a Republican Party headquarters, oh no, that never happens. To where some Manchurian candidate takes a shot at a presidential candidate, oh no, that never happens. They don't want this guy popping up to save the day. So you shut that down. Politicians love unarmed peasants. Say it with me now, once more, for those in the back. Politicians love defenseless peasants. Politicians love defenseless peasants. 4 simple words. They want you defenseless. They want you unarmed. And even if you're unarmed, they don't want you to be able to throw hands or elbows or knees or nasty little headbutt Liverpool kisses. They don't want that. So they start shutting that down. Now, they don't mind the Antifa maggots training that. They have good think, getting back to Orwell, they have good think. They encourage these guys because they're marginalized communities. They want the trans people training, marginalized community. They want the blacks training, marginalized community. They want this, that, the other, any white Christian group they are a right-wing extremist militia, a right-wing Christian nationalist militia, and that is going to be the crackdown. That's going to be the crackdown that gives them the impetus to shut down clubs, shut down gyms, and investigate people. Simply because you're a martial artist will be grounds enough to get you investigated. Oh, you're a martial artist who goes to church? Ooh, we found the extremist. Get the training in while you can, is what I'm saying. Get it while you can. Why do I need to train? I know how to shoot. Yeah, you don't know how to fight. Oh, dude, shit, dude, Bart, me and you used to run around together two years ago, man. We were doing drills together 2 years ago, man. We looked great, dude. We were ringing steel. And I went to a tactical shotgun class this year, having not put a live round down range for over a year, and I looked, pardon my language, and I looked like a fucking clown. You tracking? I went to that class and I looked like a fucking clown. I couldn't find my own ass in the dark with both hands. And that was a wake-up call, because I've never relented from encouraging everybody to train. But I thought, you know what, man? I hit the bags. I hit the bags frequently. And I shoot every now and then. It couldn't fall off that hard. It does. It does. So for the love of God, people, keep those skills sharp, particularly if you are a Christian male. And I'm going to say it, particularly if you are a Christian male of white European descent. Get the training. Lock the skills in while you can. Plenty of people that I can steer in your direction. Plenty of people that I can steer you in their direction, more to the point. And not all of them get along. If you've never thrown hands in your life and don't know any other martial arts, no other training, and you want something that's user ready on the floor right now on your way home from the damn class, Tony Blauer Spear System. Look it up right now. Pause it. Come back later. You want to go further? And this is what I'm saying. Not everybody here gets along. Chief Pearson, you've seen him show up on the sermon. He's been here before. You've seen him in the comments. He is a dear friend of mine. I can speak to his integrity. I can speak to his knowledge base, and I can speak to his skills. He's a damn good man. And this guy right here, Brother Big John, right there in that pocket with him. Right? So you're ready to step up. That's your base, right? That's your base. You want to take it up a few notches. You get with guys like Todd Fauci over at Integrated Defense Systems. Start reading up his material. Start looking at the model. And you guys already know where I'm coming home to. You already know where I'm coming home to. And that is that crazy Russian. If you have not spent time getting humbled, getting beaten with that humility stick in the hot Texas sun, then you have not truly lived. And I promise you, the first time you show up, you're not going to look that good, bro. I promise you, you're not going to look that good. You're not going to look as bad as I did in that shotgun class. And since then, I have been rigorous in maintaining that skill set and expanding it. I have been rigorous in my physical conditioning, all of these things. But you need to get on that path and you need to square your ass away right now. Right now. Get busy. Something. For the love of God, something. You have got a civilization to preserve. You have a family to defend. For the love of God, something. Please. I joke around about a lot of stuff here, guys. I joke around about a lot of stuff. But I'm deadly serious on this. Deadly serious. Speaking of things that are deadly serious, I'm going to close it all with this because this hits close to home. Spokane and the area around Spokane on fire right now. Thousands of acres, 0% contained in some places. See how beautiful my homeland is? You see how beautiful my homeland is? And it's on fire. It has spread into urban areas and some suburban areas that people would not have thought possible. Now, that's all from Washington, but this is a pattern. Pacific Palisades fire in California. Another one from the Pacific Palisades fire in California. All keeps coming back to this same thing over and over and over again. And what is it always blamed on? Global warming, climate change. It's not. It's a combination of bad forest management. And I'm speaking on the authority of my son, who is in charge of thousands of acres in Washington state. They don't thin it out. They don't do the clear cutting of the underbrush that needs to be done because the greeny weenies won't let them. No, we must leave the forest pristine and undisturbed. And when you leave the forest pristine and undisturbed, this is how nature cleanses herself. But beyond that, sometimes nature isn't who's doing it. That warehouse fire in Vancouver, this one in California, another one in Calgary, Canada. And it turns out climate change has a face. They declared a mistrial, and you should go look at that. Again, that's suicidal empathy. That guy's as guilty as they come. But they were reluctant to convict him. Go in and look at that. You know what? I should probably do a whole sermon covering just that. These white liberal women on that jury, the things that they said in the post-trial interviews. He's a sensitive guy. I just couldn't see him in spite of the mountain. Another day. The point is this: arson after arson after arson. Whole books have been written on the subject. Whole reports have been written on the subject, both in the US and in Canada. And it just keeps happening. This guy just got convicted and they keep calling it climate change. This guy charged, they keep calling it climate change. Why? Because all these people who are arrested and convicted, give you one guess which side of the coin they fall on. They're all hardcore leftists. Every single one of them, without exception, hardcore leftists. This is the work that they're doing. The ultimate goal, and this is not hyperbole and this is not exaggeration, their ultimate goal is the destruction of Western civilization by any means. Arson's just another tool in their toolbox. That's it. The poor forest management is the response of one side of leftism, which just they can't, leave the forest. Those guys. That's why the forest is poorly managed. And then the maggot mob comes along and finishes the job. Some Antifa maggot jumps up, steps up to the plate. What's the quote from the Batman movie? Some people just want to watch the world burn. You take a look at Antifa mugshots and don't tell me that every single one of them isn't a damage case just like that. They want to see the world burn because their lives are empty. They're damaged. They have no direction. God bless every one of them. I would that I could go back to whatever time it was that the darkness got them off the path. I wish I could reach back to that point in time where they got steered that direction, where that demon got his claws into them. I wish I could go back and fix that, but I cannot. All I can do is pray for their soul and do my level best to eliminate their body. That's a harsh thing to say for a Christian. I'll stand on it. 10 toes down on business. I'll stand on it. I'll be corrected by a priest, but I will not be corrected by a pundit, and I certainly will not be corrected by any non-believer. I will stand 10 toes down on business on that. I will pray for their soul, but their body got to go. That's it. It's not your place to judge. You're right. And I'm not. I'm just arranging the meeting. That's it. Horrible thing to say? Maybe. But if you're one of the literal hundreds of people that have already lost their homes in this wildfire that is no doubt going to be found to have been caused by arson, the one that took out Medical Lake a couple of years ago, the one that damn near swallowed up me and Charlie, if you can remember, we were coming back from Montana. Guess what? All of those, arson. But the left does its job. It protects their own, and they call it climate change. That's a harsh thing to say, Bart, about praying for their soul while hoping for the death of their body. Yeah, you're right, it is. But that's the position we find ourselves in right now. That's just where we are. Wish it was better. It's not. We've got to be able to step up to the plate and, again, get ourselves strapped up for the fight. Get ourselves strapped up for that fight, man. Mentally, physically, spiritually. We got to be ready for that. I'll take it back to David. 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. You better believe it, man. You better believe it. And I'll take you right back to Jeremiah one more time before we get out of here. Chapter 51, verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance, and he will render unto her a recompense. Let me tell you something, man. That recompense, best to believe, son, that recompense is just around the corner. We're seeing the early stages of it right now. Now, a lot of people might not be ready to step up, kingdom or otherwise. They might not be ready to step up and meet that challenge. But I'm going to tell you something, man. Thomas Sowell summed it up pretty well. He summed it up pretty damn well. If you are not prepared to use force to defend civilization, then be prepared to accept barbarism. I, for one, am not going to go quietly into that good night. I'm no tough guy. I'm not even a good guy. I am a wretched piece of shit sinner, trying his damnedest to pull himself out of that muck and mire, trying his damnedest to serve a kingdom that I ran from for 30 years. Some days I do better than others, but I tell you this, I keep my focus. I keep my focus. And I stand for Jesus unapologetically. I stand for the kingdom unequivocally. 10 toes down on business, ready to get my throat cut if that's what it's called for. Because it ain't about me. It's for the kingdom. I hope that y'all find that kind of strength. I hope that something larger than yourself touches you and makes you feel something worth defending. Soul talking about be prepared to accept barbarism. Most of y'all ain't built for barbarism. So you got some decisions to make, and you would best make them most Ricky tick. Because the clock is ticking. It is the time for God's vengeance, and He will deliver that recompense unto Babylon. Flee. Flee. Bring every man his soul. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Close with a prayer real quick. Heavenly Father, thank you for letting me deliver. Thank you for letting me deliver the message. Thank you for not letting me wander too far. Thank you for giving me a little nod in the spirit here and there to steer me in the right direction. All I want is for the kingdom to prosper, Lord. All I want is for everybody who I'm able to touch them in a way that helps them see the light of Christ, to make them a stronger person in their faith, even in their flesh. There are a lot of good men out here, God. A lot of good men, a lot of righteous men out here that just have not come to the light of your truth, and I pray that for them. I pray that you would use my voice as an instrument to deliver that to them. Some kind of guidance in some small way, Lord. I pray that you put steel in all of our spines and get our heads right and our hearts right for the fight that we're already in. Be ready to speak that name above all names, without fear, without hesitation. Then when they come to me, they say, who do you stand for? I stand for Christ. I stand for Christ. I just want to live to see that day, Lord. See every knee bow and every tongue confess. It's in your hands, Lord. I don't have any delusions about being some gung-ho hero or anything of the sort, Lord. I want to live right while I'm breathing. And let the name of Christ be the last thing to cross my lips when I pass. Everything between here and there is entirely in your hands. Thank you for the gift of oration, to be able to speak to people and reach people and communicate. I hope that you would send me into that valley of dry bones and let me raise you up an army, Lord. But if not, to be able to speak that name in my last breath. Christ. That name above all names. And it's in his name that we stand before you seeking counsel and prayer. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for indulging me for a couple hours. Pass around that little digital collection plate. You guys already know. You can see here I am in different surroundings. Clearly, I am between employment opportunities right now. So anything you could throw my way is always greatly appreciated. But in any case, man, if you can, you can. If you can't, or you don't feel like it, that's also acceptable. Maybe, hey, forget that guy. That's also totally acceptable. But in any case, here's what you can do. You can take some clips when I post them. You don't have to repost the whole thing, but I put these short little clips out. If you want to repost that, that would be cool. That would help out a lot. They've been getting a lot of traction. Another piece of advice that Sonny gave me that took way too long to listen to. In any case, if you share that, that'd be great. But here's what you can do. Not for me, but for yourselves, guys. Talking about Live the 3, man. I don't know if Mike made it out tonight, but if you didn't, Live the 3. Hashtag Live the 3. Live the 3. What are you talking about? Talking about the 3 prime directives, people. Rules of life on planet Bart. Rule number 1. Signal the noise. You've got to be signal in a world full of noise. There's a lot of noise out there. All those obfuscations, all those lies, all the trickery and treachery. That is the noise. You've got to be that signal, that truth that punches through the noise. You've got to be light in a world full of darkness. And they'll try to bury you with the darkness, dehumanize, demoralize, emasculate you with the darkness, make you think there's nothing left but darkness. You got to say, no, that is a lie. That is a lie straight from the mouth of the devil. You got to carry the light, and you got to be that light in a world full of darkness. And what does that take? Brings us to the third and final rule, the iron rule, the prime directive. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness. When I'm talking about strength, it's strength. Yeah, this kind of strength is good, but it can't just be here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. And guys, it's got to be here. You got to find your spine. You got to let your balls drop. Why? Why is strength so important? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you're not going to have the punch to get that signal of truth through the noise and the lies and the despair. Without strength, you're not going to have the tenacity and endurance to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness or a deep, ugly fog. So strength, man. Pray for that strength when you hit your knees at night, and you better be. You pray for that strength. But you also pray for clarity and discernment, because the father of lies is always out there looking to trip you up. That still gets me. He gets us all. Pray for that clarity and discernment, because if he trips you up, all the strength won't mean anything at all. Most important of the three won't mean anything at all. Utilize that clarity, utilize that discernment, and pray for it. Guys, please, I promise you, put your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron. Your world will be a better place. I promise you. God bless you all. Boss Man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Let the spirit move through you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless.